was quick. That was so quick. Was not expecting that sort of a takeoff or rather launch without launch control. That is phenomenal. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Once again, we have a video sponsored by BMW Midrand, and we are going to be reviewing the now 2-year-old, yes, believe it or not, it is actually 2 years old, G82 M4 competition. This specific car is an X-Drive car. We're just going to take it for a quick drive, give you my thoughts on the driving experience, and obviously give you some insight on how it differs from the previous generation. I did own the F80 M3, so we're going to see how different is it, how much more refined is it, and of course this does have a lot more different going on. Like I mentioned, it is an X-Drive car. We've got the automatic gearbox rather than the DCT, and of course yeah, the S58 powerhouse. But before we get into the driving dynamics and obviously taking it out on the road, let's talk about the design. And of course this has been spoken about, like I said, for the past 2 years, considering how old this car is already. This specific car is spec'd in Sao Paulo yellow with Yas Marina blue seats. It's a very out there color, very out there color combination, but it definitely suits the M4 and its presence. This is actually the launch color for the G82 M4. In terms of styling, obviously the biggest change is this front grille. It's already been spoken about a million times. It's definitely grown on me. I'm not too sure about everyone out there. I know there are still a lot of people out there that don't like it, but it's definitely grown on me. It's a very aggressive look. It's something completely out there. It is definitely not something you see in a hurry. And I think that does give the M4 and the M3, of course, a certain amount of uniqueness. And of course, when you see these grills coming at you, you know exactly what it is. This specific car is spec'd with BMW's laser lights. As you can see, they do have a little startup display, if you'd like to call that. And it's definitely a better design than the car spec'd with normal xenons, which is spec'd with LEDs. The laser lights do have a lot more presence. They've got a bigger design, or rather angel eye, that's what we used to call it back in the day. Not too sure what you'd refer to it as now, but they definitely do have a better design. In classic BMW M fashion, the bonnet obviously has some detail. Instead of a power dome, we've got these two inserts on the bonnet which tell you that it is an M4 or an M3. The M3s and M4s come with a staggered wheel setup, 19s in the front and 20s in the rear. You have a host of different options in terms of coloring for the wheels. This one here is spec'd in full gloss black. It is quite a nice design. The brake calipers on this specific car are spec'd in red. I think there are a host of different color options that you can choose from. I think it's a really beautiful touch, and it's a nice color break from the Sao Paulo yellow. And of course, in true M fashion, we have side vents. But in this case, they are non-functional, more aesthetic than anything else. Then of course, we have the M-style mirror caps. This is something that has carried on to a lot of the new M Performance or M Light models. This specific car has them spec'd in carbon fiber, which is a lovely touch. As you can see, the M3s and M4s now come standard with a gloss black side sill. Generally, this is something that you would add on aftermarket, and I see BMW has taken the initiative to get things going for you on purchasing the car brand new. Moving on to the rear, we can see that it's also got a carbon fiber boot spoiler, a very thin, subtle one. I think it suits the car brilliantly. Of course, there are aftermarket options if you want to go wild, go something bigger. This also has the carbon fiber diffuser, housing those 4 massive tailpipes. Nothing on this car actually tells you that it's an X-Drive, even though it is. So if you were to put an X-Drive car or rear-wheel drive car next to each other, side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The M3s and M4s also come spec'd standard with carbon fiber roofs. I believe that you can option this with a sunroof instead. Not too sure why you do that, considering that it is a performance-focused car. I think the carbon fiber roof is the perfect spec for this beauty. This car does have comfort access, which means all I have to do is put my hand in here, provided that I have the keys on me, and the car will automatically open. This car does have the Yas Marina blue interior. As you can see, it is extremely bright and contrasts the Sao Paulo yellow quite well. It does have Sao Paulo yellow accents on the inside as well though, so that is a two-tone leather. This specific car does not have the carbon back, so it does not have the carbon seats. These are the standard M Performance seats. Extremely supportive, they look beautiful as well. And I think looking at the interior, this is one of the main upgrades in terms of the G series coming from the F series. BMW really has upped their game in terms of their interior tech. It doesn't really have that old school classic BMW feel anymore, which in this case is a good thing. Something else that's very different in the G series is the location of the start-stop button. Generally you would find it on the center console or the front console, just behind the steering wheel over here. But in the G series they've moved it down here next to the gear lever, and it is in red, which is a very, very nice touch. So let's start up. As you can see, this has the full-on digital cluster. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the interior. It really does modernize it so much. There's a lot of detail in here, and we'll go through the different driving modes and how that cluster changes briefly. And of course, we know we are all eager to get it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. The M3s and M4s, as well as the new M2s actually, and M5s as well. So basically a lot of the new M cars, or all of the new M cars, come with M1 and M2 buttons. These are fully customizable via the iDrive system. So these are the different buttons you can use to activate M mode, go into the iDrive system to actually set up how you want the car to be functioning with different settings. Let's do a quick look at that. First we need to switch off our PDC, hit the setup button, and then this is where you can configure exactly how you want the engine to respond, you want the chassis to respond, your steering, your brakes, as well as your xDrive system and your traction control. Then we've also got the exhaust button, which is something very new. So regardless of whether you're in comfort mode or whatever it is, you can hit the exhaust button, and that'll liven things up on the outside as well as on the inside for you. For our drive, I'm going to leave the engine in Sport Plus. We are going to put the chassis in Sport so it isn't too harsh. Steering I'm going to leave in Comfort. I believe that in Sport it does get quite heavy. Of course, we're just driving around here on our roads, or the local roads here in Johannesburg, so we don't need a very sporty or heavy feeling. This is something very new. You can actually change the feeling of your brakes and how they respond. So we're going to put that into Sport just so I can experience it. During the drive I might change it to Comfort just so I can actually feel the difference. This is awesome. You can actually change your xDrive, and here it's specifically saying that the configuration can only be changed when DSC is off. So I've just switched DSC off. As you can see, the system is telling me that it is now in dynamic mode, and that allows me to access four-wheel drive sport mode. If I keep the button pressed with DSC completely off, that gives me access to your two-wheel drive mode, which essentially makes it a completely rear-wheel drive M4. When switching off your DSC completely, that gives you access to the M traction control functionality. I believe there are 10 different options, as you can see, as to how much slip it'll allow. For our drive, we're just going to leave it in a subtle 3. We're going to make sure that is on four-wheel drive sport. DSC on, and then we're going to put it back in M dynamic mode. So before we hit the road, I think it is only appropriate that we do a quick exhaust sound check. So I already mentioned that the digital cluster does change depending on what driving mode you're in. We are in Sport Plus mode, and this has changed the dials. As you can see, there are dials on both sides, and of course your speed reading or your kilometer per hour reading in the middle, and it'll let you know what gear you're in as well. I think it's a cool sporty function. I do kind of prefer the normal dials with the speedometer, but this looks pretty cool as well. The thing about M cars is that it doesn't take you long to know that you're in something special. I mean, just a couple of meters and I can already feel its urgency. I can hear the engine growling. It's just a theatric experience that I don't think a lot of other cars can match. So yeah, let's take the M4 out for a quick spin. We'll talk some stats, and yeah, let's see what the experience is like. So I've got the car set up exactly how I'd like it to be. In four-wheel drive sport mode, we've got the engine in Sport Plus, the chassis in Sport, steering in Comfort, brakes in Comfort as well. I am using manual mode. I want to experience the full-on M experience, so yeah, I don't have this car for very long either, so let's see what we can get out of it. Off the bat, I can tell you that reaching for the seat belt is quite difficult with the M Sport seats. They're quite chunky here at the back. I had to reach over and sort of like thread it through. So yeah, that was a bit annoying at the beginning. But of course, there's a lot more to this car than how easily you can reach the seat belt. So I know one of the main differences that a lot of people have raved on about is the fact that this M car has lost the MDCT gearbox, and instead it is fitted with the 8-speed automatic ZF. Although I remember from the F80 M3, the DCT had a specific or certain feeling to like just rolling away or driving off. And when I initially just started driving this car, just moving it around from one parking to another, initially I really thought that it was the DCT gearbox. So whatever trickery they've done with the software in this car is brilliant. It really doesn't feel like your normal automatic gearbox. The S58 is an absolute powerhouse, and even just sort of cruising along, I can feel its urgency to just get things going. It's got that low down torque. My word, this car is phenomenal, really. I mean, 0 to the speed limit in no time. The way it pushes you back, it's got that proper M feeling. Again, I'm just really astonished at how well they've paired up this 8-speed ZF and the software that they've used to make it feel so engaging, to actually help you feel those gear changes. It's just a match made in heaven. The S58 is definitely a lot more powerful than the S55. The way it lays down its power, it's linear, it's got a lot more torque as well. BMW claims a sub 4 second 0 to 100. We'll see if we have enough time to actually do a quick draggy test. Again, this is the X-Drive version, so I am very keen to see how quick we can get from 0 to 100. So something that I forgot to mention is that the gearbox also has different settings as to how aggressive the changes are. There are just 3 different settings. In this case, I put it in the most aggressive setting. I'm not too sure if it's a placebo effect, but I also feel that the exhaust burbles are a little bit louder in this gearbox setting. Again, it might be a placebo effect. I'm not too sure if that actually changes anything. This car is also spec'd with the head-up display. That also changes depending on what mode you are in. I've hit the M mode button, so I've got a very cool looking speedometer and rev counter. I think that is sort of in line with what I'm seeing down here on the digital dash, like I showed you earlier with the specified M mode dash. Over and above the M mode and setup buttons, there is a specified exhaust button. So for example, if you're just want to be cruising around and everything in comfort, but you don't want to miss out on that amazing sound, you can hit the exhaust button just to liven things up a bit. Okay, so we are going to head back to BMW Midrand. It's been an absolutely mind-blasting experience here in the new G82 M4. This specific one is actually for sale. It is one of their BMW approved used cars. It is for sale at 1.8 million rand. It is a 2022 model X-Drive, pretty much fully spec'd besides the carbon seats. You are getting a lot of value for money. I mean, brand new, it would probably cost you north of 2.2 million rand. So yeah, if you are interested in this car, give them a call, BMW Midrand. Ask to speak to Megan. She'll gladly assist you in obviously setting up a deal for this car. Currently the mileage is at about 32,000 kilometers. So yeah, in terms of stats, this car is a lot more powerful than my previous F80 M3. This is of course the competition pack G82 M4, so it's packing 375 kilowatts and 650 newton meters of torque. That's 100 newton meters more than the S55 in my previous gen M3. The four-wheel drive is definitely nice and reassuring. Of course, generally in M cars that are rear-wheel drive, you're a little bit hesitant to swing it around a corner. You never know when they might decide to throw you out there. But the four-wheel drive definitely does instill a different kind of confidence when driving around. I'm pretty sure that this car is an absolute monster on the track. I'd love to actually experience the new M Advanced course or M Intense in these cars. I have attended both the M Advanced, M Intense, as well as the M Drift, all in the S55 powered F80 M3s. That is the gesture control interrupting me. That's something that all of these modern G series cars have. No way to switch that off actually, which is a little bit annoying, but it's obviously not going to destroy the driving experience of this amazing machine. I can already tell that where my F80 M3 felt like it was going to lose it or try to kill me, this is far more composed. And I think we can see that with every generation of the M3 or now M4, they are maturing in a lot of ways, but they aren't taking away from the driving dynamics and that sportiness that they are so well known for. Another thing that I've noticed compared to the S55, the S58 sounds a lot better. Where my S55 sounded very raspy, this has that deeper tone. Some people complain about the steering wheel being too chunky. In my opinion, this isn't the case. I think it feels brilliant in my hands. The steering is very, very responsive, even though it is, of course, electric steering. It hasn't really numbed out the feeling or the driving experience that much. It is a very, very quick steering. Of course, if you compare it to something like a Porsche with their electric steering, that was a TTRS that just flew past, and I'm looking at a GT3, mentioning Porsche. Theirs might be a little bit slower, but it might be a little bit more engaging, but this is spectacular. The seats are very, very supportive, definitely not being thrown around, and of course I need that extra support considering how much power we have. I do believe that the M carbon seats are just as comfortable based on reviews. Of course, I haven't sat in one of these with the M carbon seats to date, but I believe that they are very, very comfortable. The only challenge is getting in and out. Of course, with the higher bolsters, etc., can be a little bit challenging, but once you're in there, I believe it is a pretty good place to be. The pickup is phenomenal. It's instant. There, I don't feel any turbo lag as such. It definitely does feel a lot faster, but in a tamed way. A lot faster in a tamed way than the previous generation. On downshifts, there are slight burbles. No pops and bangs, we don't do that stuff here. But yeah, there are very, very beautiful burbles. The exhaust sound is eons better than the previous generation. So we're back at BMW Midrand. Thanks so much for tuning in to another video with us here at the Carbon Connection. And again, a special thanks to BMW Midrand for partnering up with us and of course giving us the opportunity to experience the latest in BMW stable. See you in the next one. That's me searching for the start-stop button, which isn't where it used to be.